Before we get into this, quick thing. If you're a Lakers fan who actually cares about where this franchise is headed, not just headlines, but real basketball decisions, make sure you're subscribed. These conversations don't happen enough, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, yes, we finally got a trade. No, it was not the Lakers making one, and honestly, that fact alone already tells you a lot. But this trade does matter to the Lakers because it involved two names that have been dominating Lakers trade conversations over the past 48 hours. DeAndre Hunter and Keon Ellis. Two players the Lakers were reportedly monitoring closely. Two players fans had very different opinions about. And two players who are now officially off the board. Instead of a Lakers-Cavaliers framework that included Rui Hachimura, Dalton Knecht, and possible third-team mechanics, DeAndre Hunter ends up in Sacramento. Keon Ellis, another Lakers-linked name, heads to Cleveland. Chicago slides in as the third team, absorbs salary, and walks away with future second-round picks for their trouble. On paper, this looks messy. In reality, it tells us exactly what this trade really was: a salary dump disguised as movement. Sacramento willingly moved off contracts they no longer wanted, most notably Dennis Schroeder, a player they signed not even a year ago. Keon Ellis, a young player with upside and real on-ball defensive value, was essentially used as the sweetener to make that happen. That's important because just days ago, reports suggested the Kings wanted a first-round pick for Ellis. Instead, he becomes the asset used to clean up their own books. And DeAndre Hunter? He's not viewed as some cornerstone piece here. His contract is heavy, his role is unclear. This was less about acquiring a long-term wing and more about reshuffling financial flexibility. Now, naturally, the question becomes, what does this mean for the Lakers? Short answer, not much, and that's the point. Hunter is likely staying in Sacramento through the deadline. Technically, he can be traded again, just not packaged with other players. But realistically, the Kings didn't take him on just to flip him immediately. Keon Ellis is gone. Dennis Schroeder is gone. Those names are off the table, which tells us something bigger. The Lakers weren't close on anything here. They were involved in discussions, yes, but this was never about landing a perfect fit. This was about other teams trying to escape the second apron, dump salary, and reset flexibility. Cleveland was desperate. Sacramento was cleaning house. Chicago was collecting picks. And the Lakers? They were listening. That's why this trade doesn't move them forward, but it does quietly set the market. It shows what teams are willing to give up just to get out of contracts they regret. And that matters, because if the Lakers do move, it won't be for excitement. It'll be for leverage. And that's where this story actually starts getting interesting. If a team is truly trying to move off a contract like DeAndre Hunter's, or even a shorter-term deal like Dennis Schroeder's, it's never as simple as just trade the player. You have to pay to move money. That usually means attaching a real asset, whether that's a rotation player, draft compensation, or both. And that's where the Lakers quietly enter the conversation. Because while the Lakers did not end up with DeAndre Hunter, their reported involvement in those discussions tells us something important. They weren't necessarily chasing the player. They were exploring the mechanism of the deal. In other words, the Lakers appear to be studying how to leverage their expiring contracts, not just to acquire talent, but to facilitate movement. Helping another team offload a contract they regret in exchange for draft compensation is a strategy teams around the league use all the time. It's not glamorous, it doesn't win headlines, but it can be incredibly valuable if executed correctly. Take Rui Hachimura as an example, an expiring contract with actual on-court value. That kind of deal becomes useful currency in situations where another team is desperate to clean up its books. The Lakers don't have to love the incoming contract. They just need to know they can move it again, or use it as part of a larger structure later. That's likely what was happening in the Hunter conversations with Cleveland. The Lakers weren't desperate to land Hunter. They were potentially offering to help Cleveland solve a problem, and in doing so, position themselves to extract future assets. Why does that matter? Because assets create options. Draft picks can be used immediately, bundled into a deadline deal, or held for the summer when the market resets. The Lakers seem to be weighing all of those paths at once. One option is to flip those assets quickly to acquire a player who actually fits their needs right now. Another is to stockpile flexibility for the offseason, where larger trades and free agent signings become easier to execute. Either way, the common thread here is asset accumulation. Now, the idea of the Lakers acting as a trade facilitator might sound strange at first. This isn't a rebuilding team. This isn't a franchise that's supposed to be taking on bad money just for picks. But context matters. If the Lakers believe they can reroute a contract or package it later in a bigger deal, then taking that short-term hit can be justified. This isn't about helping other teams for free. It's about turning expiring contracts into leverage. And that lines up with another report we've heard recently. The Lakers exploring ways to break up their 2031 first-round pick into multiple future firsts. That alone tells you where their mindset is. More picks mean more trade combinations. More trade combinations mean more control over future negotiations. From that perspective, the Hunter situation suddenly makes sense. Not as a failed acquisition, but as a data point. A signal that the Lakers may be pursuing a less obvious route, increasing trade flexibility rather than chasing the first available name. Does this approach help the team right now? Not necessarily. But does it increase their ability to make a meaningful move later? Absolutely. And that's the tension at the heart of this strategy. Lakers fans want immediate impact. They want help now. But the front office appears to be balancing short-term pressure against long-term positioning. Whether that's the right decision is still up for debate. What's clear is this: the Lakers might not be playing the game we expected them to play. And if they do make a move, it may not look like a splash. It may look like preparation. And preparation in this league is often what decides who actually gets the next star. When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this could point to a few different directions. Maybe it's a player like Malik Monk, someone currently in Sacramento, on a contract the Kings might not love long-term, and a name that's quietly been floated in trade conversations before. Maybe it's another situation like DeAndre Hunter's, a good team trying to improve, but viewing a certain contract as expendable rather than foundational. Or maybe it's a completely different player we haven't even heard connected to the Lakers yet. At this point, it's impossible to predict exactly who it could be. But what is becoming clearer is that the Lakers may be showing their hand a little. With only 5 days left before the trade deadline, this front office might be approaching things very differently than most people expected. Whether that ends up being for better or worse. The signals are there: the trade talks with Cleveland, the willingness to explore complex multi-team structures, the openness to acting as a facilitator rather than immediately swinging for a headline move. That doesn't guarantee action, but it does suggest intent. That said, from a pure deadline standpoint, the reality is simple. The Lakers are now down 2 trade targets. DeAndre Hunter and Keon Ellis are effectively off the board. Whether you liked those names or not, they're no longer realistic options at this deadline, especially Ellis, and very likely Hunter as well. Personally, I'm not too upset about it. I was never fully sold on DeAndre Hunter as a meaningful upgrade. I didn't love the contract, and I never believed he clearly moved the needle over what the Lakers already have, unless additional assets were coming back in the deal. Without that, the risk just didn't feel worth it. Keon Ellis is a bit different. I do like his game. I think he would have fit. I think he could have helped, especially defensively. But even then, I never viewed him as a truly realistic target. Trading with Sacramento was always going to come at a cost, likely in the form of taking back a contract the Lakers didn't want. And unless that deal brought real draft value with it, it was hard to justify. So while losing out on both names narrows the list, it doesn't necessarily close the door. What matters more is how the Lakers respond. Do they double down on asset accumulation? Do they pivot to a more direct move? Or do they hold their ground and push their flexibility into the summer? Those are the questions that actually matter now. But I'm curious what you think. How do you feel about the 3-team trade between Cleveland, Sacramento, and Chicago? How do you feel about the Lakers potentially acting as a facilitator rather than going all in on one big swing? And what direction would you want this front office to take with the deadline right around the corner? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, Make sure to like the video, subscribe for more honest Lakers coverage, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.